Welcome to Top 30. I'm Kristen Smith.
And I'm Richard Bacon, and here are your top 30 stories in 30 minutes.
The CDC released new data showing the flu vaccine is much less effective this year than in years past. The vaccine prevented the flu in about 36% of cases, but in a typical season, that number can be as high as 60%. Part of the reason behind that decrease is the vaccine's ineffectiveness against the H3N2 strain of flu. That strain has caused about 75% of the flu cases this year, and the vaccine prevented only 25% of the cases. Even diagnosing a patient can be tough. The CDC says the most common test used at hospitals to detect the flu is only 50 to 70% accurate. Doctors say this is the worst flu outbreak in the last decade, and they want to tell people that despite this data, it's still important to get a flu shot. Not only can it still prevent the flu, it can reduce the symptoms if you do end up getting it.
Let's go to the New York Stock Exchange for our Fox Business Minute with your friend of mine, Nicole Pedalides. Nicole, I hear you have a warning for us about tax refunds.
That's right, Richard. If you're waiting for your tax refund, beware. The IRS says there's a new scam where refunds are wrongly deposited into taxpayers' accounts. Then thieves file a fake return by using people's real information and other tactics to steal the cash. Twitter is going to start broadcasting local TV news during major breaking news events. The initiative was recently used during the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School by streaming hours of footage from Miami's WSVN 7. During emergencies, 911 call centers often struggle to locate cell phone callers. The nation's existing system turns 50 this year. It has struggled to keep up with the calls and the explosion in cell phones.
Nicole, I hear that Google have privately tested some technology that could improve the system.
The company took a random sample of 911 callers using Androids, then sent the device's location data directly to call takers. Regulators estimate that shaving a minute off response times could save as many as 10,000 lives each year.
That's a big number. Nicole Pedalides on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Thank you. Kristen, you have a warning for pet owners.
Yeah, Richard, the FDA has discovered trace amounts of pentobarbital in various brands of dog food, a euthanasia drug used to put down animals. Brands like Kibbles and Bits, Gravy Train, and the canned foods Olroy and Skippy are affected. Walmart has pulled all the brands from their 4,700 stores. And Chicago Cubs star Anthony Rizzo left spring training to go home to Florida and support his community at a vigil held for victims of the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting, the same high school he graduated from in 2007.
Look, I'm a baseball player, but I'm also an American. I'm a Floridian, and I'm a Parklander for life. And while I don't have all the answers, I know that something has to change.
And Jennifer Aniston and her husband of just 2 years, Justin Theroux, have called it quits, announcing in a joint statement that they've been separated since late last year. And it's not lost on fans that now Jennifer and her ex-hubby Brad Pitt are both single again. Check out some of these tweets. I mean, I don't necessarily hate the idea.
It is time now for Royal Watch with The Sun. Let's check in with the legendary Arthur Edwards, The Sun's royal photographer for 40 years. Arthur, welcome back. We've been learning a bit more, Arthur, about Harry and Meghan's royal wedding. What do you got?
They've announced this big carriage drive around Windsor, an open-top carriage. So anybody that wants to see them on that day, if they get there early enough, they'll get a view. The route's been published. But interestingly, we don't know if William's the best man yet. It's not been announced.
Arthur, do we know who's performing?
Ed Sheeran is offered his services, Britain's #1 pop singer, and Elton John, who is on a final world tour at the moment. He says it's his final tour, has cancelled 2 dates on the wedding. So I think he's been asked to perform as well.
Arthur, tell me about the bachelor and bachelorette party.
Meghan said, well, I'm not sure, she said, but it's all sorted, which means her friends have done it, fixed it for her. She said, but it will be fun. When Harry was asked, he said, I think William's got something up his sleeve, but I don't know what yet.
Arthur, my concern is that you and I aren't invited to these parties. What can we do to fix that problem?
Well, Richard, I think you've got better connections than me with...
Arthur Edwards, thank you. Members of the intelligence community have issued warnings to the Senate Intelligence Committee saying Americans should not buy smartphones from Chinese tech companies Huawei or ZTE. Officials from the FBI, very senior ones, and the CIA and the NSA and Defense Intelligence Agency testified that these phones could put American consumers at risk for a possible security threat. And this is because, Kristen, as the head of the FBI said, these companies are often beholden to foreign governments. Therefore, they can be used to enter the American telecommunications infrastructure and then potentially steal information.
We're talking a lot about security lately in the news, and so this is, I think, a story that everyone needs to just be aware of. Well, a new study published in the medical journal BMJ says people should stick to eating fresh foods because highly processed food like instant noodles and chicken nuggets present a higher risk for cancer. Now, whenever stories come out like this, when new research comes out, it's kind of a red flag. As a parent, I'm like, okay, there are chicken nuggets in my freezer right now. There are fish sticks in my freezer. There are fruit roll-ups in my cupboard. And so I'm thinking, okay, so how bad of a risk is this?
A 10% increase in the proportion of ultra-processed foods in the diet was associated with a significant increase of greater than 10% in risks of overall and breast cancer. And the sample size is enormous. It's more than on the French side, more than 100,000 people. This stuff is bad for you.
Yeah.
It's just, the science is unequivocal and clear.
It's overwhelming. What kind of food are we talking about here? Sodas and sweetened drinks, instant noodles and soups, meatballs, chicken and fish nuggets, sweet and savory packaged snacks. And you know, Richard, I'm of the school of thought that yes, I would love to give my children fresh food. However, my 3-year-old sometimes will only eat chicken nuggets for a week. So warnings like this are kind of like, oh my gosh.
Here's the thing that all experts agree on. 4 simple steps. Eat more fresh fruit and vegetables. Exercise. Keep a healthy weight. Don't use tobacco. And I'll see you on your 100th birthday. I mean, if you invite me, I won't actually come, but...
Sorry, come. Hey, I'll invite you. Lufthansa flight from Germany to New Jersey. This flight was a nightmare, Richard. The people on the flight probably wish they had a warning about this disruptive child who screamed, climbed on seats, and ran through the aisles for, get this, 8 straight hours, my friends. It was a nightmare, and the whole thing was caught on camera, posted on YouTube with a title, Bad Flight's Gone Wrong. Child screams and runs through an 8-hour flight from Germany to Newark.
I have sympathy for the kid.
Yeah, I have sympathy for this mother. I mean...
You have sympathy with the mother? Why?
Well, there are 2 things. At first, I'm like, okay, this mom needs to get her kid together. This situation started way before this flight. I mean, obviously, this kid is unruly and has no respect for authority. I mean, he's like 5. He's not a 6-month-old. But on the other hand, this mom has no control, and whatever happened, how humiliating would it be to be on a flight and be that out of control?
She says at one point to the air stewardess, turn on the Wi-Fi so that my kid can use his iPad. And, you know, there's a separate issue maybe about overuse of iPads with kids. But secondly, I don't know if you ever tried to stream television shows over an aeroplane's Wi-Fi, but I tell you now, that makes me demonic.
All right, well, we have Wi-Fi in this building, thank goodness. And Top 30, we'll be back after a quick break.
The town of Parkland, Florida is still reeling from the mass shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. 17 people were killed, 14 students and 3 faculty members. This was the 17th school shooting since the beginning of January. It is the middle of February. Wow. I love America, and as a foreigner, America's relationship to guns, and particularly the fact that America sells in shops semi-automatic guns, is the most, to me, it's the most baffling thing about the country. I don't understand it.
You know, I think a lot of people don't understand it, and I think now the question is, how do we move on from this? Will change happen, or is this just going to be another school shooting?
There has been a significant backlash to those politicians who have an ability to do something about this, who are now simply offering thoughts and prayers. There's a backlash to that, because thoughts and prayers are in your head when you look at the bigger picture of gun deaths in the United States of America. If current trend lines continue, by the end of next year, more Americans will have died from guns in America than died in the entirety of the Vietnam War.
Okay, take a look at the cover of the New York Daily News. It reads, "Is my school next, Mommy?" Wow, looking at this image, it is so powerful. And this has some experts talking about how to break the horrific news to your children when something like this happens. And Richard, when I look at that cover, it really does give me goosebumps. And I hate that I have to look at my 3-year-old and my 16-month-old, and if they ask me, is my school next, Mommy? I can't look at them and say no. Experts do offer some tips in terms of having the conversation with your children, and those tips are turn off the news and instead have a controlled environment to have the conversation. Being that if you have younger kids and they see kids running out of the school, I mean, that's a very scary image, right? Also, let them know everyone at their school is doing their absolute best to keep them safe. A little bit of insurance there. And listen and then respond. See where your child is at first before you just say, okay, here's my strategy. I'm going to talk to my kids. Be like, so did you hear about what happened? Listen to them.
It's an absolutely impossible conversation.
Right.
And you can't get away from this number.
Yep.
There have been 17 school shootings. We said it at the beginning of this piece, and let's say it again. There have been 17 school shootings since the beginning of January. Something has to change.
Yep. All right, we will keep you guys posted on this. In the meantime, Top 30 will be back after a quick break. In today's Hometown Stories from Fox 2 Detroit, Ballet in the City is a nonprofit that promotes classical ballet to groups who otherwise may not be exposed to it. The organization came through Detroit and brought an accomplished dancer with them. Calvin Royal III is a soloist with the acclaimed American Ballet Theater in New York City, and he hopes to inspire kids who look like him to follow their dreams and put in the work required to achieve them. In our second story from KTVU, 12-year-old April Cookston has cerebral palsy, which can make getting around difficult. Things got even harder when an uninsured driver totaled her mom's wheelchair-accessible van. But things are turning around for April and her single mom, Kathleen. Lou Hanhan, co-owner of Precision Body Shop in Colma, California, gifted them a 2006 Toyota van. It's fully wheelchair accessible, so it'll even fit her 350-pound electric wheelchair. In our final story from Fox 13 Tampa Bay, lots of stars and Broadway tours stop through the Strass Performing Arts Center in Tampa. But one person who's stuck around for a long time is 96-year-old Margaret Goodson. She's volunteered at the Strass Center for the past 30 years. Her favorite musical is Forever Plaid, and the cast stopped by and paid her a visit when they were in town.
All my heart and soul.
Oh, you're wonderful.
What a sweet serenade for a dedicated fan.
A recent study shows 8 out of 10 Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. And that data includes 10% of people who make over $100,000 a year. So how responsibly are people spending their money, and what are they spending it on? About 3 out of 4 Americans say they often or always spend their paycheck responsibly. The rest answered never, not often, or sometimes. The study also asked why people made an irresponsible purchase. The top 3 answers: to improve mood, to make an impulse buy, or to satisfy an urge to shop. Experts say it is okay to make an irresponsible purchase every once in a while. My definition of every once in a while may vary, but it is good to know I'm following expert advice.
Danielle Knox from Fox 35 Orlando brings you what you need to know today. Danielle?
Hi, that's right, Kristen. A new report finding many Americans are taking too much ibuprofen. Boston University researchers found 15% of Americans are exceeding daily dose limits. They say this could lead to serious side effects like internal bleeding. Well, do you know when the eggs in your fridge expire? I never look. Chances are you probably haven't thought about it either, but a Commerce Committee has. They've approved a proposal that would extend expiration labels on eggs from 24 to 45 days. They say this will cut down on waste because, well, they would need to throw as many eggs away. If you are having a bad day, you are not alone, my friend. A new study by Freeletics, a workout company, says the average American has about 60 bad days every year. Work-related stress accounts for 80% of those days, and a lot of people say they are more likely to drink or engage in other unhealthy behavior after a hard day. Experts say the best thing to do is to work out and to get some me time. I like the sound of that. And that's what you need to know. Kristen, back to you.
Well, Danielle, it's never a bad day when we have you around. Thanks for keeping us in the know. A 29-year-old mother from England says, Kate Winslet saved my life. Gemma Natal spent 4 years fighting 3 different kinds of cancer. In 2016, tumors were found in her brain and lungs, and she was given just 6 to 9 months to live. Research led Gemma to a wonder clinic in Germany that specialized in treating severe cancers, but the treatment would cost $420,000. Unable to afford that on her own, she set up a GoFundMe page that caught the eye of actress Kate Winslet. Kate said in an interview, I thought, this poor woman is probably years away from being able to access that kind of treatment. There was just $9,000 in the fund, so I thought I just could not let this happen. Kate called actor Leonardo DiCaprio, and together they auctioned off 3 dates with them as Jack and Rose from their iconic film Titanic. Enough money was raised for Gemma to get treatment, and 6 months ago, she was declared cancer-free. Inspired by the woman's story, Winslet set up a foundation to help others in similar situations, and she's enlisted Gemma to help her run it. According to top social scientist Malcolm Gladwell, your success isn't decided by pedigree or education level, but by how pretty and white your teeth are. Which is why we've got today's top 30 deal, Elite Teeth Whitening System at a special 81% discount. The Elite Teeth Whitening System includes everything you'll need to brighten your smile at home and on the go. Simply mold the thermoforming trays to fit your teeth and then fill them with the kit's professional strength 35% carbamide peroxide gel. The cold blue LED light accelerates the whitening process, leaving you with a dazzling smile in as little as 20 minutes per treatment. The Elite Teeth Whitening System retails for as much as $200, but today you can buy it for just $39. That's again about an 81% discount. And you can get this right now at top30deals.com while they last.
Last year, more than 10,000 restaurants in the US closed. The number of independent restaurants dropped by 3%, according to industry analyst NPD Group. Meanwhile, the number of chain restaurants stayed the same. Independent restaurants are actually more popular with many diners. A report by Yelp found that fast food chains have lost an average of 16% of their rating in the last 5 years. But as one expert said, chains simply have more monetary resources. That's because restaurants are an expensive business. For many, 30% of sales cover food and beverage costs. Labor is another 30%, operating expenses are 20%, and renting a space could cost 10% or even more than that. That leaves just 10% for profit. Higher labor costs and rent can make that margin even smaller. There's a joke in the New York dining world: how do you make a small fortune in restaurants? And the answer is to start with a large fortune.
The number of games missed by NBA players this year is way up, and experts and fans are trying to figure out why. Star players like Kawhi Leonard, DeMarcus Cousins, and John Wall have all missed an extended period of time because they got hurt. A website that tracks player injuries, mangameslost.com, found the number of games missed by players is up about 42% from the same time a year ago. Some NBA execs believe it's because of a shortened preseason this year, a time players usually use to increase conditioning and prepare for the season. Many think it's the faster pace of play during NBA games, and others say it's just a coincidence. League officials will surely try to pinpoint the problem, but in the meantime, it hasn't kept fans from watching. Viewership is up 20% from last year. An Alberta couple lost their home in a wildfire in 2016. They've spent the last 2 years trying to rebuild, and they recently got some much-needed help. Bill Pendergast bought a $3 lotto ticket earlier this month in Newfoundland while on his way to visit his ill father. The next morning, when he checked the winning numbers on his cell phone, he couldn't believe it. He had won $1 million. Bill said, "I called my wife Carrie in Fort McMurray, and she booked a flight immediately. This is all like a dream." The couple will use the money to finish rebuilding and furnishing their home, but Bill also plans to splurge a little bit. He said, "I have always wanted a Mustang, and I will finally have one. I'm 100% sure of that." Well-deserved and perfect timing for a couple who's been through so much.
The ALS Ice Bucket Challenge of 2014 raised a remarkable $115 million, but some ALS patients now say they're unhappy with how the money is being spent. Most of the money raised reportedly went to the non-profit ALS Association, but about 40 ALS patients and caregivers in a group called Terminally Persistent feel there's no sense of urgency. Member Matt Bellina said the group would like to see a little more aggressive spending on research that's applicable to people living with ALS today. Most people diagnosed with ALS tomorrow will be dead before they could spend all that money according to the ALSA's most recent financial statements, they have roughly $104 million in net assets. The organization's president said some people expect we should have spent $100 million in 1 year. I don't think that's realistic, but I understand where it's coming from, a place of hope. There's a lot of money going out the door, but if you have ALS, it might not feel good enough. The ALSA is currently funding more than 150 research projects in 8 countries. Kristen, what is coming up on the next show?
Richard, we're talking about paychecks. Working at bigger companies used to mean bigger paychecks, but new research says things have changed. Plus, there could be a new treatment for blindness, and you'll never guess where it comes from. And these are the best cars for the vertically challenged. Top 30 also covers more of the day's stories live on Facebook every day at 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern. We'll see you next time on Top 30.